Hello and welcome to your second PHP tutorial. Today we'll just continue learning PHP, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to turn on our Apache and MySQL from XAMPP. Go ahead and do that. Then in our htdocs we're going to create, let's say, a second .php file, and I already have it opened through Notepad. And what I've done is I've made a simple code with just echo and test, just to get test on my web page. Now let's open up Chrome, which is right here, and let's go ahead and type in localhost second.php, and we're going to get our test right here. Now let's continue with today's lesson, and let's go ahead and type in define. So the define function basically defines a constant, which are very much like variables. So what we're going to do is, in brackets, we're going to write, let's say, greeting, and I'm going to put a comma, and I'm going to write quotation marks and something like how are you. Let's put a semicolon right here. Let's open our function. Let's call it myf, which is basically my function. And inside we're going to write echo and the word greeting without anything else, just greeting, like so. Now we need to call our function, so myf. Now if I save and refresh, I'm going to get how are you. And a thing for you to know is that it is different from variables with a couple things, such as constant values can only be strings and numbers. They can be accessed regardless of scope, and the value cannot be changed after it is set. So I'll prove this to you by doing this. And let's say I change this to how are you guys, for example. And if we save and refresh, I'm going to get a notice that the constant greeting already defined in my file on line 5. So it's already defined, you cannot change it on my whole web page. Now let's go ahead and continue. Let me comment on this code, and what I'm going to write is I'm going to make a new variable which will be p. I'll make it 50 for its value, and for our variable p I'm going to write a plus and an equal sign, which will make it to 100, and to get it displayed we'll write our echo and our variable. So if I go ahead and save this, refresh my page, I'm going to get the value as 150, as this is basically writing the same thing as our variable p, which equals variable p plus 100. So this is a concatenation. We've learned it in JavaScript also, and it can be used in PHP as well. We can do the same exact thing with multiplication as well. If I save and refresh, I'm going to get 5000. This basically just means that my value of p will be times by 100, which is 5000. We can also do the same thing with division and percent, but what we're going to do right now is we're going to add 1 to our p variable through ++. So I should get 5001. However, we see that that's not what we get. We get 5000. This is because the first code to be read is the value of our variable p, and then the ++. So what we need to do, we need to bring it ahead of our p variable. Now we'll see that we'll get 5001. We can do the same exact thing with 2 minuses, and we'll get 4999. Now, just so my code separates a little bit, I'll add BR tags to continue. Let's go ahead and make 2 more variables. Let me add some space. First one will be 100, and our second variable y will be 50. Now let's go ahead and write some if and else statements. Now in the argument for if, we're going to write the values of our variables. So the x variable equals 100, and we're going to add 2 and symbols so the Boolean operator, and we're going to make a y variable which will be equal 50, and if this works it should get echo, and the text should be something like statement is true, and let's also make an else statement in which we'll write statement is false. Let's see how this works. Refresh, we're going to see statement is true as both are true, and let's say this one was wrong, so 102, and I forgot to add in echo here. This, now if I save and refresh, I'm going to get statement is false, as this is 51, which is the wrong value. And just so you know, if I put one and symbol, it will still work, and we can also put the writing and it will still work. Now let's say at least one of them was true and we still want the statement is true statement. What we're going to do is, instead of and, we're going to write or. Now we see that this value is false and this value is true. However, if I refresh, I'm going to get true. This is because of this or. It is self-explanatory, and it will be the same thing if this one's wrong. So let's say 105, we see statement is true. However, if both of them are wrong, obviously we're going to get statement is false, which is from our else statement. And also, I believe we've learned this before, but instead of or, we can just write two of these lines which stand for or, and as we see, our code works. By the way, we can also use it with just one line. Now there's also another operator which is XOR. I don't exactly know how to pronounce this just yet. However, so what this does is, let's say if either one of these two variables is true, it will work, but not both. So let's see this in motion. So we see that both of them are false. If I save and refresh, I'm obviously going to get statement is false. Let's say this one is true and this one is false. I'm going to get my statement is true. However, let's say both of them were true. What I'm going to get is, I'm going to get my statement is false. So it is sort of like the opposite. It basically just turns this whole argument into false and makes this statement work. Let's move on. Let's create a new variable. Let's call it t1, and its value will be hello world. Let's also add in here br tags like so. Let's add in our echo t1. Now if I save and refresh, I'm going to get my hello world right here. Now let's continue this text and let's write something like of legends. So hello world of legends. If I save and refresh, what we're going to see is that of legend gets joined to my statement is false statement. However, what I want to do is I want them right next to each other, so as a complete sentence. Now we need to make PHP understand that this is not what we were intending to do. We just wanted to join these two together. So what we do for this is we're just going to add a full stop or a dot right next to our equal sign. Now we're going to see hello world of legends together. If I add a space right here, it will be also displayed here. So hello world of legends. We can even add an exclamation mark just for effect, like so. Now to move on, what we could have done at the start of the video is we could have just started our video with index.php, which is the original, or like the first page that you come to when you write localhost. So let's get rid of this real quick. So delete, and we can in index.php open it up, edit with notepad. We can get rid of this and we can paste our code right here. Now if I save this and if I just write localhost without anything else, I'm going to get this notepad PHP file. As I mentioned, index index.php is the very first file that localhost will open. Now if we go ahead and create a brand new file, let's go to htdocs. Here is a new text document. Let's rename it for index.html, and if I go ahead and type in localhost right here, as we see, I'm going to get my index.php file. This is because XAMPP has sort of a default value where PHP needs to be opened first. Now if I were to add a slash to this and type in index.html, we will see this code, which as we see is from our old lesson. So what I can do is I can just rename it something else. So I've opened index1.html, and what I can do is I can just copy this HTML code and paste it inside just to get my HTML structure, like so. We can close out of here. So in our HTML code, what we're going to do is we're going to make a form tag in which we'll write action as its attributes, and we're going to write login.php, and we're going to give it a method which will be post. Now we're going to write a input tag with the name attributes, and we'll name it login. Let's also create a br tag like so. Now let's make another input which will be the password, and the type is also going to be password as well, and my br tag just to make it look nice. Also a button which will be for sending things in, submit, and I'll put send here, and I'll close my button and my form. These guys are all inside a form, so we'll do it like this, and let's see what this looks like. As we see, we have our two input boxes like so. This is my password, this is my login, and this is my send button, which does nothing. Now let's try and work with our login PHP. Go ahead and create a new text document which will be our login.php, and we'll edit it with Notepad, and we'll write our PHP code like so, and we'll write our code inside. Now let's go to our HTML file. Let's, for example, for the login write Simon, and for the password let's write from 1 to 6, and if I click on send, we're going to be taken to login.php. So as we see, we put the method as post. So what we're going to do inside of our login PHP is we're going to write a $, we're going to write an underscore, and we're going to write post in capitals. So this is a method of PHP, and so inside we're going to write the word login, and let's duplicate it and change this one for password. Let's put these two elements in variables. So the first one will be log, and the second one will be pass. Let's also get them displayed through echo. So log, and we're gonna make spaces in between like so, and we're going to also display pass. Let's save this. So this is basically the post method. So when the user fills out the form above, which is this, and clicks the send button, the form data is being sent to our login.php file, and this form data is sent with the HTTP post method. Now let's go ahead and try this. If I click on send, I'm going to be taken to my login PHP, which has my details, so my login and my password. Besides the post method, there's also a get method. So what we do is we change our method to get, and also in our login.php file, we have to put that we're using the get method instead of the post method. And I got rid of the underscores. Let me get them back like this. So we're going to see the difference right now. Now if we refresh, if we write something here and something else here, I'm going to get, let's see, the same result. However, in my search area, I'm going to get my login and I'm going to get my password. Now if I click on send after writing my details, I'm going to get my details right here, and I'm going to get my login, and I'm going to get my password. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our post method. Post, let's do the same thing down here as well. Post, we need to also change it in our method area right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to make an if statement like so, and we're going to write our log variable. We're going to write Simon and ampersand symbol, which is right here. We're going to write our password as well, like so, and I put this by mistake. So if the password is from 1 to 6, then we're going to open our curly braces. Inside we're going to display our argument that the login and the password should be these, Simon and from 1 to 6, and through echo in if we're going to write correct entry, which is not exactly correct, it's just something that should say you have entered, so it is right, so it's the right password. And for else we're going to write incorrect entry, and we need to put the semicolons as well. So we need to also add echo here. Insert jadi hit step, save and refresh. Now if I write Simon and if I write 1 from 6, if I click on send, I'm going to get correct entry. However, if I write, let's say, Simon with some wrong letters and my code password with some wrong letters as well, I'm going to get incorrect entry. And I don't know how this echo got here, hence why we get the login with us. So let's save and then start again. So let's say they've entered it wrong, they're going to get incorrect entry. If they've entered it right, like so, they will get correct entry. So this was all that I had prepared for today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed learning about the post and get methods and some other additional PHP things. So thank you so much for watching.